What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year round. If that is something you're into, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like this video, and answer the question in the comments below. Who really runs the Big Ten, Ohio State or Michigan? Do we expect Jaden Maiava to be another great transfer quarterback for Lincoln Riley, as he's been pretty good about this, and USC's been pretty good about quarterbacks? Texas is surging, and Derek Cooper is absolutely the truth. But I want to start with this. I want to start with this question of, yeah, man, who runs the Big Ten? Is it Ohio State? Is it Michigan? I also want to really unpack just what this means, right? So a column I write at Fox Sports gets to this idea as we're ending the Big Ten Media Days week. I asked this question in earnest, and I asked this question to a lot of different people as to, which program do you think runs the Big Ten? It needs to be Ohio State or Michigan because those are two defending national champs, 2023, 2024, and we expect Ohio State to be one of those teams alongside Oregon, Penn State to compete for the national championship in about, 5 months' time. Okay. So what goes into this, right? Goes into this is obviously what you're doing on the field. And if you're Michigan, you get to say with a very clean smile, we own Ohio State. We have beaten them 4 times in a row. And yeah, they won the national championship last year, but show me the Big Ten championship. And then again, show the last win they have against us, which came before the plague year, 2019. It's the last time that we talked about Ohio State beating Michigan. It's also the last time that we talked about Michigan being really, really bad past 2020, right? They canceled the game. It was a big deal. I think if they played that game, we're not living in Earth 616 anymore. We're living in Earth 838. I think we're living in a world where Jim Harbaugh is not head coach in Michigan in 2021. I think it was there. If they'd have gotten destroyed the way that it looked like they were going to get destroyed in 2020 with all the jabbering and the name calling and the talk and the late start to the season and just how good Ohio State looked as they got started and were able to get to the national championship game, Justin Fields, it could have been 70-0. It could have been horrible for them. But they didn't play the game. They restructure his contract. He comes back in 2021 and fields a college football playoff team that not only beats Ohio State, wins the Big Ten championship. Okay. They do it again in 2022. And then in 2023, famously, they run the table 15-0 with Jim Harbaugh coaching just 9 games on the sideline, right? We see the anointing of Sherrone Moore as the heir apparent to Jim Harbaugh, as he is the guy on the sideline because Jim Harbaugh was not allowed to be there when they beat Ohio State in 2023 in a game that we thought Ohio State had a great chance of winning. It turns out losing that game for Kyle McCord changes everything. He ends up at Syracuse, right? They win that game. I think he's still a quarterback at Ohio State. Will Howard doesn't come in. Probably don't spend $20 million on your roster to go win the 2024 national championship because you needed to go for broke this year if you're Ryan Day, if you're the program. On the other hand here, there is the way in which I think most of the world feels about Ohio State versus Michigan right now. Michigan is embroiled in controversy. Matt Weiss, federally indicted, right? And we've done that segment and go check out what that co-offensive coordinator was doing and why the feds are involved. We have no end in sight to the sign stealing scandal. And I call it sign stealing scandal because that's what it is, right? You want to talk about advanced scouting or you want to use all of your legalese to try to tell me what it's not. You cheated. You got caught. We'll see what kind of punishment you face, if any at all. We know the Big Ten suspended Jim Harbaugh. We know that Connor Stallions no longer works at the University of Michigan. They don't care. And that's really what it's about. It's about Michigan admitting that it's wrong to do what it did, and they haven't, and I don't think they will, right? That's what their get down has been. I think in a sense of fairness, many people outside of Michigan Wolverine fandom believe that what Michigan did was not okay and below board. Notably, most of the Big Ten members that wanted to see Tony Petitti do something to curtail this during the season in 2023. Again, it didn't matter. They ran the table. They won the national championship. Still leaves a bad taste in everybody else's mouth about it. Meanwhile, Ohio State continues to be not unlike the proletariat and not unlike the rest of us. Working class folks coming out the Rust Belt that live and die with their scarlet and gray. Their football program is who they are. It is their family. As a dude that grows up in Oklahoma, who knows that the Sooners run the state, there is an empathy that I understand there. It is a public school masquerading as a very public school. LSU is kind of the same way in this way. Michigan is a public school masquerading as a private school. I say this about the University of Texas. If you wear a white collar to work, you went to Texas, you went to Ole Miss, you probably went to Michigan. Trying to think who else might actually Syracuse. There's a certain get down to how some public schools have been able to go about doing their business as flagships. And Ohio State's get down is much more like, no, we'll get in mud with you. We'll get in the dirt with you. We will not mince words with you. I often say this. A lot of things you can say about Ohio State. One of the things you will not be able to say is that they're soft. They're not going to let that stand. They're also going to try to beat you up and down because they don't want to hear your mouth whenever somebody wants to accuse you of cheating. Whenever somebody wants to accuse you of cheating, that is also taken away from the good work that you do. Now, that's off the field. We also need to take into account there are only 4 founding members of the Big Ten, right? 3 of them are still active. Chicago's the one that's not. Illinois, Michigan, and Ohio State, right? Somewhere, somehow, Ohio State and Michigan left Illinois behind after the 19th century. But if you're talking about one of the great rivalries of all time in any sport ever, you're talking about Ohio State and Michigan. It's one of the other reasons why they're at the top of this list. Revenue is also important here. They bring in a lot. And if you're talking about who gets to sway what the conversation is going to be like in the Big Ten, you're talking about Ohio State. At a time when Nebraska was talking about leaving the Big Ten after they just got there, and other programs talking about going independent because they wanted to play football during the COVID times, Gene Smith would tell anybody, listen, no, we are Big Ten members. This is our conference. This is where we are going to be. And they're so good, along with Michigan, that you've seen USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon join up, right? The Big Ten's gotten bigger. It's gotten stronger. It competes with the SEC. So now we're talking about the preeminent program in one of the preeminent conferences. And then on the football field, they continue to recruit the hell out of the rest of the country, right? Ryan Day's 2026 class is really great. They got one real bona fide gem in 5-star Chris Henry at wide receiver, which makes a lot of sense because that's what they've been doing here of late. They've been able to turn out wide receiver after wide receiver after wide receiver. And after the season that Jeremiah Smith enjoyed as a true freshman, you can expect a guy like Chris Henry to want to play at Ohio State. Let's also remember that his daddy played at West Virginia and for the Cincinnati Bengals. So you got the bloodlines going for you, as the dude is every bit of 6'6" and looks like an absolute killer if he can get to that space. On the other hand, you got a Michigan team that's bringing in number 1 recruit in the 2025 class in Bryce Underwood, who expects to be their starter going into week 1 and more importantly against my Oklahoma Sooners. I think if this dude, who was once supposed to be going to LSU and probably could have done what Jaden Daniels did at LSU, is as good as we think he's going to be, Michigan's going to have more to say about who actually runs the Big Ten come the game. Because that game's in Ann Arbor this year. And it turns out the last few years, the last 2 out of 4 that we thought Ohio State was going to win that game, the game's in Columbus, and Michigan goes down there and gives them the what for and the how now. If the game is icy and the game is cold, you probably will not see as much throwing the ball around with a Julian Sam. You'll want to run the football. Ohio State will run the football. Michigan has been better at running the football. Michigan has been better at run defense, more importantly. I think winning that game would allow Ohio State to claim we run the Big Ten. Because you win that game, we think you're going to play in the Big Ten championship. We think if you get to the Big Ten championship, you have an opportunity to play. Now, last year, we didn't have the divisions, right? So you got to see Oregon and Penn State there, but Ohio State and Michigan had been disqualified, lost to Oregon if you're Ohio State, right? I would love nothing more than to see a rematch of that game, but I just don't see it happening because it's going to be on the schedule every single year, right? Ohio State, Michigan getting to the Big Ten championship would be great. Now we got an opportunity for Ohio State, Michigan to get in the college football playoff. And in a perfect world, you get to the game, Ohio State gets one back, you get to the Big Ten championship, and then we get to see, right? We get to see. Ohio State can win that game, but say Michigan makes the playoff and ran the table, what would we say then? It's an ongoing conversation. It's one of my favorite rivalries in all of sports because the folks that root for Michigan absolutely 100% root for Michigan and root against you, right? Folks that root for Ohio State, they 100% root for Ohio State and root against Michigan. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. There are more people that show up to tell me y'all from Michigan than there are Ohio State. There are more people that show up to tell me how cool they think it is that I'm an OU fan as they're Ohio State fans. Everybody else thinks I'm an Ohio State fan because they say nice things about them. in a way that they can get down with. Thing about Michigan that I enjoy, though, and I've said this, and I don't know how many people hear it, those players do not care what anybody has to say. Like Steve Sarkisian likes to say, it doesn't care what anybody else outside this building thinks about us. It cares what happens. It matters what happens in this building. Michigan has lived that under Jim Harbaugh and Sherrone Moore. And I wish you could bottle that and give that to everybody, because that's how families work. Growing up, my mother would tell us, my sister and I should preface this by saying my parents are ex-military. My mother was captain in the Air Force. My father's drill sergeant. I got it both ways, right? My mother would say, I don't care if RJ committed an act of robbery, Denise. You side with him. And then when you come home, we will sort this out. But outside, you are united. You are one unit, okay? There is no you. There is no her. There's or him. There's only us. And that is how good teams operate. What goes on inside our building is what goes on inside our building. Outside our building, you cannot separate us. And because you can't separate us, it doesn't matter that they have more talented football players. We will beat them because we're better at being together than they are. Now, I think most football teams like to believe they're very close, but that closeness doesn't always show up in wins and losses. At Michigan, it absolutely does. And for that, I want to commend them and also say that's really freaking cool. We come back. I want to talk a little about Lincoln Riley and Notre Dame and Jade Mayava and just what we should be able to expect from USC in a year in which we think the sea might be getting a little bit warm for Lincoln Riley if things don't go well. Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to the show, please subscribe, like the video that you're watching, and leave a comment below. Do you think Notre Dame and USC should continue to play ball for as long as we're playing college football? Also going to remind you, we got an audio version of this podcast that you are watching on YouTube, or if you're listening on the audio podcast, thanks so much. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Go to the form in the description on YouTube, fill it out, and tell me where to send your sticker. A lot of stickers have gone into the mail. I will continue to send them as we get closer and closer to these 500 reviews that I'm really looking forward to. Goal is to get us to over 1,000 by the end of the season, which would be very cool. Okay, so Lincoln Riley had kind of intimated throughout 2025 he doesn't know if the Notre Dame rivalry makes much sense for USC given the current space and format for which we're playing college football. Lot to talk about there. So USC Notre Dame has been one of the rivalries that most of us look forward to forever, right? Because it is a glorified, I should say, let me go at this another way. USC Notre Dame is a clash of color that has come to be synonymous with greatness for most of us. The Golden Domers playing against the USC Trojans has been marked with such controversy and such cool people that's really difficult to forget. Right? I'm thinking about the Bush push. Matt Leinart pushed Reggie Bush. It was illegal. They won the game. I'm thinking about what the movie Rudy has done for college football, even as most people that know much about Rudy Ruettiger could tell you stories that would, curl your toes. The movie itself with Sean Astin is amazing, and we all love it. We know that O.J. Simpson went to USC, and we know what happened when OJ got older. We know that Mike Garrett was a Heisman winner and a former athletic director who ends up at Langston. We know Lane Kiffin was there. We know Steve Sarkisian was there. We know that they have had a Heisman winner in Carson Palmer, Reggie Bush, Matt Leinart. We also know that Notre Dame has turned out some really great players that, frankly, I don't always think get enough notice, but some that get a little too much notice. Usually the quarterback. Jimmy Clausen comes to mind. Probably shouldn't, but he does. Manti Te'o comes to mind. Catfish anybody. However, that game usually is good. It usually does not disappoint because Notre Dame is a barnstorming team. That game is always on the schedule is nice to know because, Notre Dame will play almost anybody. They got this agreement with the ACC where they play a bunch of ACC teams, but they also play everybody else. And it's one of the things that we enjoy about the sport, so much so that we let them run around as an independent and treat them like a Power 4 school. It's cool. I think in recent years, USC has been helped by this rivalry because USC hasn't been that great in the 2020s. Certainly not since 2019. Thinking about Clay Helton coming through there. I'm thinking about Drake London coming through there. And frankly, Lincoln Riley choosing to go to USC at a time when Oklahoma is humming. Oklahoma is a good football program when he leaves it. Takes a loss to Mike Gundy in Oklahoma State, gets on a plane the next day to go to USC, then talks about turning that place into the mecca of college football, as if Norman isn't right there, as if Columbus isn't right there, as if Tuscaloosa is like, hey, you winning championships, you talk about coming here, right? As if Baton Rouge is going, I'm sorry, how many national titles has USC won since Pete Carroll left? Okay, cool. I'm sorry, does the Pac-12 any good, or is it just y'all? Turns out the Pac-12 is so good, it dissolves. And when it dissolves, Big Ten says, y'all want a home? And USC says, yes, please. Can we bring our little brothers UCLA with us as well? Oregon and Washington say, hey, we want to come too. All right, our stepbrothers would like to come as well. So now you got those over there. Lincoln Riley, though, is going into a season where he sat the starter, Miller Moss, a thing that he's done more recently of late, but was loath to do until basically Spencer Rattler showed up, the guy he recruited to Oklahoma. And that's been the sauce, right? When people talked about Lincoln Riley and they wanted to be mean about it, they would say he can't recruit and develop his own quarterback out of high school, as if that should matter. I don't think it should. But Austin Kendall was never going to be the guy at Oklahoma. For that matter, we could keep going down the list. But Baker was, and Kyler was, and Jalen was. And eventually, this guy named Caleb Williams does show up, a guy he recruits out of high school and follows him to USC, and he turns him into a Heisman winner at USC. Drawback to that is, even with Heisman winners and number one overall picks, and he's had 3 of them, he has not played for a national championship. And a lot of that has been about the defense and the defensive coordinators that he's hired. They just haven't been that great. Alex Grinch was not that great. Mike Stoops was awful. Danton Lynn, we'll see. It's teetering, but it ain't great. It's good. It ain't great. Now, with Miller Moss, a guy who couldn't beat out Jackson Dart, you thought he was the guy because he threw a bunch of touchdowns against Louisville. You end up sitting him halfway through the season. You bring in Jade Mayaba, who starts 4 games for you after transferring in from UNLV, and he's got a lot of skill set that we're used to seeing with a Lincoln Riley quarterback. A guy that can play make on the move, right? Make it happen with his legs, and if the play breaks down, he will save you with them. Now, that in and aside with the Notre Dame conversation, I think is just a hat on a hat. I don't think you need to be having a conversation about the future of the Notre Dame rivalry, for which he said at Big Ten Media Days. Schools are in radically different situations with their schedules, college football playoff pass, that it underscores the need for a system with more automatic qualifiers, while also going, I think Jaden Mayava can be one of the better players that we have and can be really special. I need USC to start winning football games at a higher rate before we talk about losing one of the great rivalry games that it happens to play in. I realize that you want to get into the playoff, and I realize that you want an easy path to get into the playoff. And the easiest path for a college football coach would be an automatic qualifier. But I play football, and I love football. And the thing about football is it doesn't matter what you think you ought to do. You got to go show it. You got to go prove it. You got to go win it. And if you're good, we'll put you in the playoff. We got 12 spots now. We'll have 16, we think. But to say that you want to lose one of the sainted rivalries in the sport so that you can better get a spot in the playoff, I don't know. Sounds a little weak. I don't like weak. Play people. Play people in your division. Play people in your conference. Play people on your level. Notre Dame is on your level, at least historically. Now, they played a national title game last year, and you have not. Right? That might be getting under your skin. But looking at a game and saying that it's difficult is not a reason to lose it. Texas and Texas A&M, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, Ohio State and Michigan know enough, and I mentioned this, that they all need to play each other. They hate each other so much that they have to play each other. I don't know that we get that hate for USC Notre Dame. And maybe that's what it's got to be. Maybe it's got to be an era of trash talk. Maybe it's got to be an era of course they're scared to play us coming from Notre Dame. And that's what I would lean into if you want to keep the game on the schedule. All right. If they're scared, they're scared. Take it up with them. I can't make them play. Can't make you put on pads. Can't make you put on a helmet. I can't make you line up and get smashed to death. But that's not what you want to do. That's not what you want to do. Go play Cal Northridge to choose a team that a school that doesn't have a football team, right? Go play Northern Arizona. Play somebody that doesn't matter. It's like we got to play Big Ten schools already. Sure, dog. Rutgers will be on the schedule. That's really going to ruin your day. I want USC to be good because I think USC being good would be good for the sport, but not at the expense of losing Notre Dame and USC as a rivalry game. And to the end of Jaden Mayava, I really want him to be good. I think he can be. And I think if we're betting on Lincoln Riley and a transfer quarterback that he thinks can play, he's earned the benefit of the doubt on this. But is USC going to make the college football playoff in 2025? That's a more interesting question. And right now, we're talking about Illinois having a better chance of making the college football playoff than USC, which would mean one more year of Lincoln Riley being at USC and not doing the thing that he did at Oklahoma and being as far away from creating a mecca of college football as Indiana. Farther. Indiana made the college football playoff this century. Have you? No. Until then, let's push it back just a little bit. Pump the brakes on USC. Come back. Let's talk a little bit about Texas and why I think that school is surging at a time when it could take the most advantage of its recruiting, and it's doing just that. Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, thank you for joining us here. If you're listening on an audio podcast, thanks for doing that as well. If you're watching on video, subscribe. Like the video. Answer the question below. Do you think Texas is doing the most with its recruiting right now? And if you're listening on the audio podcast, there's a way for you to comment on Spotify. And I read them, I reply to them. Leave us a 5-star review if you're there. So Texas is interesting to me because Texas is operating once again like I expect Texas to operate. That it has a top 5 recruiting class is not really news because we expect and have come to expect Texas will recruit in the top 5. All it has to do is recruit the state of Texas. And when it goes out, it usually gets the number 1 player, number 2 player in the state. And we're not talking about Massachusetts here. We're talking about Florida, Georgia, California. It's not about recruiting. It's about evaluation at the University of Texas. And now going into a 2025, which feels like their best opportunity to win a national championship since 2005, the best opportunity to play in a national championship game since 2009, I'm curious what the future is looking like for them. Because, yeah, they're going to have Arch Manning at quarterback. They're going to play Ohio State week 1. But if you look around the summer, they've had one hell of a great summer. Their quarterback recruit, Dia Bell, son of Raja Bell, NBA guard, and I love watching Raja play with the Phoenix Suns, won the Elite 11 MVP. No Texas quarterback recruit has won Elite 11 MVP, to which people are going, well, Arch didn't compete. That means he didn't win. That's how that works. You don't compete, you don't win. Nothing risk, nothing gain. And if you're too, busy or afraid to go compete at Elite 11, that's, somebody else is going to get the moniker of being first to do it. And Dia Bell did. Also, is outstanding as a junior, over 2,500 yards, and 70% of his passes completed. And with Steve Sarkisian growing you up, I think you got a shot to be a really great quarterback. Also adding here some top, 300 wide receivers according to ESPN. Chris Stewart and Jermaine Bishop Jr. Both of those guys are explosive. Both of those guys got big plays in them and speed. They're fluid. You're going to be able to bring in great wide receivers to Texas. Ryan Wingo being a great example of this. DeAndre Moore's emerged. They'll get better at that position. I think you're talking about the offensive line there. They're always recruiting well. They're always developing well. Nicholas Robertson is an example of this. Defensively, we could talk about Dylan Berryman. We could talk about Corey Wells. But the guy that I really want to spend the most time talking about here, and one of the reasons I think that Texas is doing the most with its recruiting in the 2026 class, is Derek Cooper. Guys, that dude can play. So he's coming out of Chaminade, Madonna in Florida, Hollywood, Florida, which sounds familiar because there's a guy, Jeremiah Smith, that was from down around the way down there. But if I'm looking at Derek, I'm also looking at a guy who is 6'1", 205 pounds, and played both ways. Last year, and I want to make sure I get this right. Let me make sure I get this right. It's not the 9.3 yards per carry average that I thought was just gaudy on like 105 touches, had like 900 yards rushing. It's that the dude had 46 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 pass breakups, 4 sacks, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 fumble recoveries and 2 forced fumbles while paying special teams, blocking punts. Okay. I don't know that Texas has had a back that is this big and this strong and this fast since Deontay Foreman. Now, I know CJ Baxter is there, and I know CJ Baxter's in line to have a great season. Bijan Robinson Bijan could just see things. His vision was next level. Jonathan Brooks, great tailback. But I look at Derek Cooper, and I see Eric Dickerson. If you go watch old Derek Dickerson highlight tape, you'll see an upright running style. You'll see a man that can run by people. And okay, so like the first few highlight plays you might see of Derek Cooper on Huddle are him running through the line of scrimmage and breaking tackles. Always a great way to start. But what gets me is things like throwing a little swing pass to him and watching him just blow by linebackers that I swear to you could reach out and touch him. He's just running by them. They can't put their hands on him. That is the kind of speed and size and power that you should be recruiting at the University of Texas to play tailback for you. I look at him and I go, oh, what if Derrick Henry was smaller? That sort of stuff. It's Derrick Henry's not just big, he's fast. It's one thing for you to be faster than the person next to you, run by them to the end zone. It's another thing for them to not be able to put their hands on you as you go by because you're moving so quickly. That's what they got in Derek Cooper. Again, number 1 tailback in 2025 or 2026, according to some. But I keep looking at the versatility, and I keep looking at the hands, and I look at the speed and his want to hurt people, like when he's running with the football. And I say Eric Dickerson, but, he's not as violent a runner as Adrian Peterson, but he's just as mean. Adrian was so violent that, at Palestine, dudes got out of the way, like it's like, nah, it's a business decision. I want to play the next down. I can't play the next down if I try to tackle that. I don't think that Derek Cooper is there, but he's damn close. He's running with a fury that you can see other people are awed by or afraid of. Either way, you want that at the University of Texas. Especially as Steve Sarkisian is so enthusiastic and so fond of saying, I have 1,000-yard backs. That's what I do. We misdirect. We run RPO. We beat cover 2 like it stole something. But what I do is produce 1,000-yard backs. And that's a guy that is a renowned quarterbacks coach, a renowned coordinator. But you go back to Najee Harris, you look at Jonathan Brooks, you look at Bijan Robinson, you look at Travion Wisner, who was 3rd on the depth chart, still producing a 1,000-yard back last year. And now you're getting CJ Baxter back. You're getting Christian Clark back. Jared Gibson, we think, is going to be good. He's going to find a way to get that dude touches. So when he gets to Texas, I expect him to be competing to play right away. And, running backs, you always need a million of them because dudes get hurt carrying the football. But this dude looks like he can hurt other people carrying the football. I said Eric Dickerson. I mentioned Adrian Peterson. I'll throw one more OU tailback on the just to get under the skin of Texas people. DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray. If you got that kind of hands and you got that kind of speed, and we can line you up in the slot, and we can line you up 7.5 yards deep, and you can rush for 1,000 yards because you can take that kind of punishment, get those kind of carries, and he obviously can, because he's playing both ways, you'll do damage. Even in the SEC, you'll do damage. I'm excited about what could be in the offing for a guy like Derek Cooper at a program like Texas when we expect Texas is only going to get better. And if they are able to keep this class together, and the way to do that is to keep winning, he shows up, you get another year of Arch Manning, we think, and you get him in the backfield, and you get a grown-up Texas team. It could be the beginning of something special at the University of Texas that is really coming into blossom right when Derek Cooper arrives. Not too shabby. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Adapt and Respond. If you like the longer show, let me know that in the comments. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like the video, and we will see y'all next time. Deuces.